Please welcome Docker Vice President of Product, Banjot Chanana.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to DockerCon Day 2. How are we doing? All right. A little more excitement this morning. How was that party last night? Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had to go home a little early, just so I could be awake, but I'm glad you all enjoyed. For those of you still coming in or watching over the live stream from the hotel room, we have some great seats right here in the front row for you. No, I'm joking. We're actually going to put you in the back. I got a little nostalgic last night as I was at the party. I started thinking about how many DockerCons I've been to. I've been to seven DockerCons. San Francisco, Austin, Seattle, Copenhagen, and now twice in Barcelona. And it got me thinking why this DockerCon was so different from all the rest. And I thought about it for a while, because every DockerCon has its own feel. It has its own kind of vibe. And I think I realized it last night. It's the food. The food. Isn't the food spectacular here in Barcelona? No. Yes, it is. The interesting thing was, and bear with my analogy here for a minute, as I've been attending all the events, as I've been talking to customers and our users, as we've been interacting with the Docker captains on Monday, it came to me that this conference has a sense of balance that I haven't seen at previous DockerCons. Not unlike a good paella. I had a great paella just the other night, and it had this great combination of rice and mussels and chicken and sausage, all just well blended together. And I think like that paella, I looked at this DockerCon and I thought to myself, there's a great balance in what I'm hearing from our customers, from our partners, from our users. And that balance is now how we're thinking about the goals we're after. It's the balance of how we're talking to each other, not talking past each other. Our community has progressed rapidly over the last 3 to 4 years, and we're starting to understand each other's problems. I'm hearing in the same meetings operations teams talking about development artifacts. I'm hearing in the same meetings developers talk about how we're going to manage and scale these applications as we go to production. And we're talking about common goals. We're talking about a common endpoint. And this is what's amazing is this is really what's going to propel us as a community going forward. So I'm really excited about today because we're going to continue that conversation. We're going to talk more about the progression for this community going forward and how we can further achieve that balance, how we can further define those goals, and how we can ensure that we're leaving this community better than how we started it. So with that, let's recap from yesterday so we can make progress for today. We'll recap what we talked about yesterday. So yesterday, we started with digital transformation. It's turning every company into a software company. And containers are at the heart of that transformation. Developers are driving it. The business requirements of choice, security, and agility are driving the adoption of not only our container platform, but also the core tenets of Docker. App modernization will enable us to transform the customer experience. And application modernization, you saw from Lee and Elton's demo yesterday, was really easy with a Windows 2008 application. And then together with MuleSoft, we'll unlock the data and the history in those legacy applications to enable that business transformation. And then as we embarked on the journey from legacy apps to modern applications, we started focusing on the next 13 million developers that need to be enabled. We don't want to force all of them to know Docker and become Docker experts. And so we showed you with the demos how we plan to get developers from zero to first Docker image. First with Docker Assemble, ensuring that you can get from source code to Docker image. with Docker Compose and Docker applications as deployment artifacts, and then finally Docker Desktop Enterprise, giving you that full enterprise experience. So today, let's now turn our attention to how we operate and manage applications. To manage efficiently across a broad landscape of applications and with proper governance, we must look at the specific needs of our operations teams as they try to take control of their full application portfolio. What do operations teams need in order to be successful in this new world order? We believe, like developers, operators need choice. They need choice to run in their data center or run in a cloud provider, or maybe both. They need the choice to run the right operating system for their application, whether it's Windows or Linux. And finally, they need the choice in how they run their service, whether they want to run decentralized for each of their departments, or whether they want to run a centralized shared service. How one manages an application should be the same, no matter which choice of those you make. And we believe that strongly. Next, we believe operations teams need to be equally as agile as the rest of the business. We've asked our development teams to be agile. We've asked our business to be agile. The operations teams, we should expect no less. But how do we get that agility? We get it from standardization and simplicity. The greater we standardize how we operate an application, the lower the incremental cost of adding that next application to our portfolio. From deployment to patching to diagnosing to updating, every application can be handled in a common way. The more consistent that operating model, the simpler it is. The simpler it is, the more efficient it is. That's how we're going to achieve agility. Lastly, let's talk about security. Security is no longer just a corporate concern. It's no longer just the concern of large governments or large corporations. It's a personal concern. It's all of our data out there. And we need security controls that are going to enable choice. We need security controls that won't inhibit it, but enable it. We need security that's going to accelerate agility, not prevent it. To do this, we need security that's well integrated and incorporated in how we manage our applications. It's got to be part of everyone's job, and it's got to be actionable by every part of the development workflow. So it has to be fully woven into that operating model. So now, let's take a closer look at how these principles of choice, agility, security can be applied. We ready for a demo? Yeah. All right. So let's continue our story from yesterday. We created some development artifacts yesterday. Let's now continue the story with an IT team who must now deploy the application we built yesterday. Please welcome to the stage Lorena and Harish.
Hi, Lorna. I'm Harish. I'm the new IT engineer who started in the company yesterday. Looks like you're already checking out my LinkedIn profile. So I heard you're the IT expert who's going to be teaching me and be my mentor.
Buenos días, Harish. Yeah, I was just going through your LinkedIn profile. It says you're a thought leader, Scrum Master. Is that what you did before?
Yeah. So basically, I'm a self-proclaimed thought leader. I look at the industry, I make predictions, and I talk about trends. Do you want to hear my top 5 predictions for 2019?
No, thank you. Maybe another time.
OK. So basically, I have these developers pinging me, saying that they actually built their Docker applications. But I need help in taking these applications and actually pushing them to production. Can you help me?
Of course. As my T-shirt says, that won't be a problem. So tell me, how far are you coming along?
I've basically gotten access to a Git repo. But this is something called Docker Enterprise? I'm not quite sure what that is.
Oh, I think you're pretty close, thought leader. Well, first of all, Docker Enterprise is a platform where we manage containers securely and at scale. And we also have a trusted registry. That's where we store the container images. First things first, is the app already built and ready to go?
I think so. The devs mentioned that they do something called CI/CD here, but I don't trust them. So I copied all the images to my USB key here. I'm used to creating makefiles and bash scripts. Hey, do you want me to upload this to that Git thingy?
No, it's Git, by the way, not Git.
Okay.
But let's take a look. So here we have the repository where the image got pushed to, and here we have all the images.
Whoa. That's a whole lot of images. How often are these guys building and pushing them? Aren't you going to run out of storage space soon?
Oh, have no fear. Docker Enterprise has a feature that lets us automatically prune the images and keep the storage size in check. So that's pretty much it. Now, what was the tag you called that you were going to deploy?
I believe it's called deploy this now. Oh, so can we deploy this now?
Sure. Let me check. So we have our scanner that runs through the vulnerabilities within the image. And it seems like the developers have already signed the image. So yeah, we should be good to go.
Awesome. This looks really advanced. But how do we actually take these images and run them as workloads in production?
Well, this, my friend, is why we have our universal control plane. What kind of deployment are we talking about here? A Swarm or a Kubernetes workload?
Cubes. Let's do that cubes thingy. I read in every magazine and everybody about Twitter says that's the coolest thing to do. In fact, I think I may have a cube sticker somewhere here.
Great. And please don't say cubes. It's Kubernetes. Well, Docker Enterprise can run Kubernetes workloads via Docker application, Kubernetes YAML, or Helm.
Wait, I just peeked at the Git repo, and it looks like they have a Docker application that's ready. So, is that all we need?
Yep, you can take a Docker application and use it with either Swarm or Kubernetes. Let's go ahead and use that application and run it as a Kubernetes workload.
Sure.
So we're going to go around here, and we're going to go to Shared Resources, select Stack. Then we're going to just go ahead and create a stack. Let's give it an original name. So what's your favorite thing about Barcelona?
Sangria.
OK, let's go with that. We're going to use it as a Kubernetes workload, select the DockerCon namespace, and we're going to go ahead and do it as a Docker application. We click on Next. Then we have here where we add our application file. So we're going to upload it, which I have around here. And we click on Create. Great.
Neat.
So now that the application is deployed, shall we see how those workloads are doing?
Sure, after you.
So right here we have our stack. We're going to click it. We're going to go straight to controllers, and we see pretty much everything here. So let's take a look at this replica set here. So we can see that we have 5 out of 5 pods currently running. We see their annotations, relationships, pods, and we can see the labels also. So let's take a look at one of these pods and check out its metrics.
Wow. This is really cool. I'm so used to wiring up these things and running it myself. It's awesome that everything comes built in.
Yes, and you can also see how the pod is doing versus a node overall in terms of CPU, memory, and disk usage. Oh, and one more thing. You can see the last hour worth of events by clicking this icon here.
Nice. But hold on a second. I have to ask the usual question. Does this scale? Like, what happens if the application becomes live and then I was going to send it to all my friends? If they start hitting it, like, can the application handle it?
Well, how many friends are we talking about here?
I have 2, and with you now, 3. But I do have 1,000 pending Facebook requests, so once they accept it, all of them will be hitting that application.
OK. Well, if your 1,000 Facebook friends decide to go crazy and cause lots of load on the application, Don't worry, there's a feature called pod autoscaling, and it basically lets us deploy new pods on demand based on its CPU and memory metrics.
Thank God. I'll let all my friends know. Once they accept those requests, by the way.
Sure thing. So I think we're good to go now. So why don't you give him that high five?
You've got mail.
Wait. I think I got a mail about another application that we were running on another namespace. So let's go and check it out. First, we're going to go to the namespaces and change to Barcelona to set the context there. Once we have it, let's go and check out here at pods. And we see that we have 4 major.
Whoa. What is that? Is that like a virus?
No, it's not a virus. It's just running an image that has a known vulnerability, and it can be exploited by a hacker.
A hacker? Well, what do we do now? I don't want to lose my job on day 2.
Oh, don't worry. We just need to tell the developers to update their Helm chart to use this clean image right here. So why don't you go ahead and message them to tell them to do that?
Done. Okay, so I just told them, and apparently they used the updated image, updated the Helm chart, and they pushed it via the CI system. Hey, can just you and I try to deploy this?
Sure, let me show you how. So, okay, we're going to check out our new image that it has running the not vulnerable one, and then we're just going to do a Helm upgrade.
Cool.
And then now, when this is done, we can go back and...
Whoa. Hold on a second. So just so I understand what you did, you got a notification on email that an application that was running actually had a vulnerability. You found out it was because they were using an outdated image. You told them to use the new image, and then all they had to do was use that and upgrade the Helm chart, and you're good to go?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow.
So let's go check the pod and see if the image was pushed. Oh, we still have it here.
Maybe you just need to refresh this?
Maybe. Oh, it still has 4 major. Let's see, let's check. Oh yeah, because I don't have to go here. I'm so silly, I always forget things. No. Let's see if that went well. So we do a Helm upgrade. Oh, you know what I think it might be missing? To source the file. I restart my computer every time. And forget to do a source of the... Oops. Doc. So we need to do a source of the EMB. And then we're going to go around here. What was it? So we're going to go to Helm, docs, examples. Was it examples?
Yep.
So this. Oh yeah, and then if we do this,
Let's try to run this now.
it should be now upgraded. Around here, anytime now.
So all that you did was you made sure your client was now talking the universal control plane. So once that gets updated, hopefully you should show this up pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Let's do a hard refresh, maybe.
That's what I did. There's something always wrong happening. We still have the major.
I think yesterday, when you were preparing the training for us, you made a video of this. Would you want to pull that up instead?
Yeah, why not? We always need to be prepared, right? So, oh yeah. We're going to go around here. Aha. So where were we?
Go to the end. Yep.
Aha.
So basically, when you just upgraded the Helm there,
Yep. So we go upgrade the Helm chart. And we check the values. Yeah, that's exactly what we did. And then We do a hard refresh. It takes long even in the video. Great. There. And that's what it's supposed to happen. No vulnerabilities.
All right, cool. This is awesome. No vulnerabilities. So basically, I learned a ton on my second day. I learned how to deploy multiple workloads using different formats, like Docker application, Helm charts, and I also looked at health metrics. I discovered and remediated a vulnerability. This is awesome. Docker Enterprise is going to make my job a lot easier here.
Yeah, we still have some work to do about that, but you're already 100% ramped up.
Guess what? I think I have another prediction for next year. Docker Enterprise is going to help me spend less than 80% of my time to keep my applications up and running, and spend more time on useful stuff, like innovation and thought leadership. I guess this is why people call me a thought leader. It's time for me to go get those thought leader stickers.
Yeah, no, it's that way. Let's go get the thought leader sticker that way.
Thank you, Lorena and Harish, for that very accurate portrayal of what happens in IT. We're very excited to bring you the capabilities of Docker Enterprise that enable choice, agility, and security. We can enable our development teams to build and deploy multiple formats like Docker application and Helm packages, monitor those deployed applications, and manage their CI/CD workflows with in-box policies like tag pruning in Trusted Registry, and then mitigate vulnerabilities as part of their CI/CD workflows. All of these values can be applied equally to legacy applications, modern cloud-native apps, data science workloads, or even edge applications and IoT devices. As we look to our roadmap, going forward, we see the potential to ensure we have that common operating model for the next generation of developed applications. So now, while demos are great, and so are thought leaders, and they're fun to watch, let's actually hear from folks that do this in the real world. Please welcome to the stage Greg and Dennis from Tele2. Hi, Dennis. Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Good to see you guys.
Hi, yeah.
Thanks for joining us this morning at DockerCon. I'm really excited to talk to you today about the projects you've been working on. Let's start off with maybe a quick overview of Tele2 and your respective roles.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Well, Tele2 is a global telecom operator, and we offer connectivity to both consumers and businesses, fixed, mobile, and on top of that, we offer global IoT solutions as well. And we are present in 8 countries, offering those services to over 70 million customers. And well, we at Tele2 believe that a connected life is a better life, and we constantly aim to have connectivity increasingly more available to our customers whenever and wherever they need it.
And our roles in the company are Dennis, head of IT infrastructure in Holland. He manages all the infrastructure engineers. And my role, I'm a technical architect, and I'm responsible for making sure that all the development teams in Tele2 meet the non-functional requirements that come from all the different departments of Tele2 now.
Fantastic. Thank you both. Well, since we're here, maybe we can all talk later about some better cell phone contracts. But we'll talk about that later. Maybe tell us some of the issues that Tele2 has been facing.
Yeah, well, we had some challenges, and that was mainly focused on the consumer business. So we saw that we weren't able to meet customer demands, and also we were struggling with the quality every now and then. So we needed to tackle that, and in order to do so, we launched a Digital First initiative, what was supposed to solve just that, to remain competitive in the market, as well as fix those things. Yeah, and have the happiest customers. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And when they actually came to the IT department and asked for help to solve all these problems for us, we looked at containerization and microservice architecture to solve their problems. And we had 6 months to fix their problems and go live with our first application, with our primary sales platform. We built a proof of concept to actually convince them and show them that we can do this. In that proof of concept, we looked at orchestration layers, Swarm, Kubernetes, and all these things. And in the end, we actually managed to show them that we can meet security demands and that we can actually do this.
6 months is not a lot of time, and I'm sure many members of the audience here can sympathize with that.
Yeah.
That's probably something time pressure that many are under. Let's talk about the rollout. How were your teams involved in that rollout? How did you make that happen?
I really help the teams making sure that we have examples that show how to meet the non-functional requirements, so that they know how to do the testing, how to use CI/CD and all these things, so that they can lead from that example and that they get the velocity they need to meet the deadlines.
Yeah. Yeah, and my team was responsible for planning, design, and eventually the realization of the platform. And as we just said, it was quite a tough deadline. So in order to make this work, we formed a small but dedicated team to build the platform. And also we found out that it's not about trying to do everything yourself. There's lots of people around there and companies that has done this journey before. So we reached out to customers of Docker that has done this before. And we also made use of a great partner from us in the Netherlands. It's amazing. That really helped us to validate the designs and also helped us with implementing.
Well, thank you to the community, the partners, the customers that helped you out. That was great. Yeah. So how did it go? How did the rollout go? How was it received?
It was an interesting journey and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But the business was really happy. So we migrated the Magento software, we moved it to Docker, and after a while we even moved the whole Tele2NL website to Docker as well. So that was a big party. And even after that, we did a lot of celebrations because we started to move more and more workloads to the Docker platform. Yeah.
Greg, were you invited to the celebrations also?
Definitely was.
Good. I just wanted to make sure everyone gets invited to the party.
Yeah.
So what's next? What are you going to use this platform for next? What are you going to do after this amazing launch?
Yeah,
you get to retire?
No. A lot of departments really saw that success of launching our primary sales platform, and they got inspired. So they're hopping on the bandwagon. They want to join. They want to move their applications as well. So we have a proof of concept running with Tele2 Television. We were looking at business and wholesale applications, and moving old legacy applications that are on Windows is also one of the things we're really looking into as well.
Yeah, and because it became very popular, and as I said, a lot more workloads were put in that, we are starting to be a bit concerned about capacity. So what we are now trying to do is to scale out to a public cloud provider, which is Azure. So we are working now to connect it to our on-prem infrastructure.
This is a really important point. Amazing how transformational this platform has become for Tele2, and has enabled you not only to onboard new applications, but also migrate to the cloud and use cloud services. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Is there any advice that you would give for others in the audience here who are starting that journey today?
Well, we certainly learned a lot during the journey, but the piece of advice that I would give to the audience would be to really do this together. In order, make sure that you have a small but dedicated team. If possible, put them together in the same room and have them work through the same goal. I think that's really what it's all about. And don't try to do everything yourself. Again, there's a lot of people out there who has done this. And also, failure is part of the success. Don't forget about that as well, because you will run into issues. Yeah.
And the point I would give the audience here is really template the chaos. Help your development teams by showing them how to do it, how to meet the non-functional requirements, how to do security, how to do proper CI/CD, and really, yes, help them on the learning curve to make it in the time that managers will give the developers to achieve their goals.
Excellent. This is really good advice. Collaboration, teamwork, being able to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. Collaboration and standard practices are important to get others to help embrace your platform. Thank you so much for coming here today, guys. I really hope continued success for both you and Tele2 and the platform you've built. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
And now I'd like to take an opportunity to invite onto the stage the folks that really take good care of the entire community, Mano and Jenny.
The Docker community has been at the heart of Docker's success from the very start. Not only do they drive each other forward, teaching, building knowledge and enthusiasm, but they also drive us forward, telling us what they need. The majority of us in the community are practitioners, people who get to use Docker technology every day. Whether you're a developer, a sysadmin, DevOps professional, architects, whatever your role, you are the ones building and running the software that is running the world. In the last 5 years, this practitioner community has grown amazingly. Not only do we have millions of users, we now have 240 regional user groups in over 80 countries, representing over 200,000 people. Let's take a closer look at a company within our community that embodies our community values. They are passionate about building a developer ecosystem for their company, so much so that they are teaching people how to code for the first time on their easy-to-use platform. That company is Africa's Talking. Let's watch a video to learn a little bit more about what they do.
So Africa's Talking is a Pan-African platform as a service company. And what we do is we democratize communications and payments APIs across Africa. For us, democratizing and spreading that wealth to the developers as well is our key goal. So we empower developers in two ways. We run trainings, which include 0 to hero, which means we spend 3 days with developers and train them in a particular language. The second thing we do is workshops, which are basically design sprints, where we allow developers to be able to build mock-up software that they could possibly turn into a company if they wanted to, but basically an MVP at the end of it. Trainings are completely open, and these are community run. It's not really our initiative, but rather the communities that we work with.
So containerization has allowed us to build better delivery pipelines for applications. This has allowed us to move much faster. We've been able to build features faster, test them, and deploy them.
So with Docker, we are able to service over 35 million API calls. This means we are powering 5,000 businesses through 23,000 developers who together are reaching millions of people across Africa. All that running through our system just makes us so happy because the developers are powering impact in their communities. And if that is happening, means we're accomplishing our mission, and that's heaven. Yeah.
What a great example of community building. The core of the global practitioner community are the Docker community leaders. They are the people that bring containerization to their own backyards and help teach and foster connections. They organize in-person events, network with ecosystem partners, act as mentors, and create a safe space for people to come together and learn about Docker technology. Around the world, we have over 500 community leaders running almost 40 events per month. That's more than one Docker event every single day of the year. Community leaders are an extended part of the Docker family, and containerization has spread around the world by their enthusiasm and dedication. Thank you. From this group, we at Docker would like to recognize a few special community leaders. They run numerous programs for their user group, including frequent meetups and other events. They help other community leaders, and they provide invaluable feedback. Some even organize more than one user group. For 2018, our inaugural Community Leader of the Year awards go to Cristiano Dietrich and Marcos Antonio Martins Jr. from the Porta Alegre Group. Augustine Correra from the Mumbai and Mangaluru user groups. Adina Valentina Radulescu from the Timișoara and Brașov user groups. Now, unfortunately, none of those community leaders were able to be here today, but I want to invite the following winners to the stage. Mohamed Abalite from the Casablanca user group. Boxy chocolate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Michael Irwin from the Blackberg's user group. Stay here, we have to take a picture. Yeah, come on up, let's take a picture. Great. Congratulations. Within the community, there are about 60 individuals who have taken their passion for Docker technology to another level by becoming the creators of content and projects to teach others. 3 years ago, we recognized this group as the Docker captains, those that go above and beyond to be the teachers, evangelists, and guides to Docker technology and products for practitioners of all levels. This prolific group has taught over 500,000 people across 148 countries. They've written more than 350 articles and 15 books. They've spoken at hundreds of events about Docker products and Moby open source projects. And they've created popular projects like Play with Kubernetes and Play with Docker, which has had more than 1.5 million unique users this year alone. The captains are ever present, always available to answer questions and to lend a helping hand. On behalf of Docker, we are so grateful for all that you do. Now, there is one captain in particular whose activities this past year have elevated us all. This person was nominated by their peers because their contributions and leadership served as an example of what it means to be a Docker captain. So, the 2018 Tip of the Captain's Hat Award goes to Mr. Brett Fisher. All right, congratulations. All right, so your fellow captains have put together a video explaining why they nominated you, and we're going to play that now.
He is involved in the community, actively doing AMA sessions, open to help other captains, and an all-around great example for captains and community members.
Brett's done incredible work with Docker training. He does live hackathons, Q&As, interviews, and more. He helps drive improvements for both the open source and enterprise products at Docker. Cheers, Brett.
He does an amazing job sharing knowledge through videos and conferences. He also provides code for the different Docker components. Our most important value as captains is our ability to educate people to use Docker in the right way. And Brett does this well.
What can I say about Brett Fisher? He's an invaluable resource, not just for other captains, but for the community as a whole. He's accessible and constantly working on sharing knowledge with the community and the other captains. Way to go, Brett.
All right, here you go. Here's your award. On behalf of the captains, Docker, and the community, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
All right. Take a picture? All right, you can sit down.
Thank you to those we just recognized and to all of our captains and community leaders for the work that you do. This isn't your day job, but like us, you share a passion for Docker technology. Thank you. We appreciate everything that you do. Now, for many of you, this is your first time at DockerCon. For lots of people, we know that it's difficult to get to a major tech conference like DockerCon if they do not have institutional support, especially if they're early in their career. So over the last 3 years, Docker has provided financial scholarships to those who are traditionally underrepresented in tech, so that they can attend their first DockerCon. By actively promoting diversity of all kinds, our goal is to make DockerCon a safe place for all to learn, belong, and collaborate. This year, for this DockerCon, we have expanded that program. With the help of the Open Container Initiative, we were able to expand the program and offer over 30 scholarships to people to attend this DockerCon. Thank you to the OCI for your support. And as a community, we can have even more of an impact. Join us in supporting someone's Docker journey by helping to sponsor their trip to DockerCon. Reach out and get involved in the scholarships by emailing scholarships@docker.com. So community is only as good as the people that make it up. So I'm going to ask something from all of you. If you're not yet involved, here are some ways to get started. Share the excitement of discovery. Post a blog post. Answer a question in the Docker community Slack or on Stack Overflow. Help out your local community leaders. It's a hard job. Give them some love. Contribute to the open source projects. Push your images to Docker Hub. Today, host a hallway track session. Most of all, share your learning journey with the world. And now, I'd like to welcome to the stage Docker's CTO, Cal D.
Thank you, Mano and Jenny. Okay, is it just me, or is it getting a little chilly in here? Hola, Barcelona. I need it to get a little bit warmer. Hola, Barcelona. Hola. All right. So, are you guys excited? Are you having a good time? Yeah? I'm super excited. And we feel very, very fortunate to have you here with us this week. It's an incredibly special opportunity for us to connect one-on-one, to get to know each other a little bit, and for us to learn about the journey you're going to be navigating, and for us to have hopefully a point of view on how we can help and partner with you there. Okay? So this morning, after we've spent a little bit of time talking about digital transformation and how our platforms and tools and technologies enable choice, agility, and security, I thought we would start and spend really the rest of our time together stitching together a point of view around one fundamental question, right? What does it take to achieve competitive advantage given the landscape of things that we're looking at in today's business climate, okay? And the relevance of doing that, of course, is what I hope to do is, in this conversation with you, of course, it's not going to be interactive, it's going to be me talking. In this conversation with you, tie that to how our tools, platforms relate to that question, okay? How we partner with you. And in so doing, we're going to try and show a few things that I think everything we're going to talk about, everything we're going to show, I hope is relevant to answering that question as to how do you navigate the road ahead for competitive advantage, and where does Docker fit into that picture? And in so doing, what I hope to do is share a perspective on how we're approaching that in Docker, because I think we should be as clear as we can about how we view the world and how we're approaching things, right? So we're going to talk about a few things in that context as well. So let's consider this on 3 vectors, okay? The notion of change, the complexity of what we're dealing with in the business climate and our environment, and why speed is important. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old, right? I think there was a time when the world was a little bit more reasonable. And it didn't feel like the ground was shifting beneath our feet almost in real time. That, the direction in which we're going, you're walking, then you're kind of sprinting, then you're running towards the direction in response to some change in the business climate, and along the way the destination changes. And this seems to happen, it used to happen every year, and then it seems to happen every month, and now sometimes we're dealing with it on a weekly basis because of all the different vectors that we deal with. So there's that, right? And it is what it is. We have to get on with it. We have to deal with that. But then here's the other thing, right? I think there's 2 specific things. And remember that the things that I'm talking about here, I hope to relate back to the things that you've been hearing about our products and our platform, and why us, why Docker, or why microservice architecture, why containers, back to these things that we're touching upon here, right? 2 more things about change, super specific. One is, folks, we live in an impatient time, right? The need to respond to change seems not only pervasive, but almost instantaneous. And the faster you can do it, the more competitive your particular business can be. And the other part of it is, question for you guys to dig a little deep and consider. Are you set up in a situation where your business could change quickly, in an agile, effective fashion, responsive to the change that is around you? Because here's the thing, right? When we consider complexity, we live at this time where it almost feels like everything is connected, right? Your car, your laptop, your cell phone, your devices, your home automation systems, medical systems. Heck, in our lifetime, I think we fully expect that there will probably be some form of medical diagnostics or something of that sort embedded in the human body. And we are all, these devices, these things that are interconnected, emitting data all the time. Everything has become a source of data. And how this data is persisted, how it's transported, at rest, over the wire, how it's secured, how it's transformed, predicted, learned against, is now the business of every business. And the companies that are able to leverage this data, leverage this as an opportunity, we think will be the ones that will find competitive advantage. So all of this, if you think about it, lends itself to this notion of speed, right? Fast response to change, the ability to be agile, and to do that quickly. And so, how do we think of responding to these vectors, right? There used to be, around the time the iPhone came out, and the first Apple App Store kind of hit the thing, there was this sort of joke or meme that if you wanted something, then there was an app for that. You remember that? That television ad, right? There's an app for that. Well, except it's not a joke anymore. Because the only way to respond to everything that I just described, which you already know, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know already, is software. And that's why we've been talking about digital transformation, and that's why we're talking about basically everything being software-driven, if not software-defined, right? And in this climate, we are all, you are all, we are all, Dockers in this game too, going to be in the business of writing a lot of software. And look, folks, I think there's a general understanding that human systems, human beings, get less and less predictable and less flexible when we deal with large problem sets. Okay? And as you're particularly specific to in the domain of writing software, there are enormous advantages to agility, to speed, to flexibility, to responsiveness by breaking things down. Because really what you need to do, there is no straight line path to knowing exactly what you're going to build, exactly how that particular feature needs to work. The whole key is to do it in shorter and shorter, effective, iterative cycles. And what you're looking to do is to identify these decomposable units that can be characterized as services or features, ideally that are independent, ideally that can be built, characterized, deployed, shipped, distributed independently, and securely, and in so doing, provide an array of options that can be reused in more than one context. And that is one of the ways in which not only do you go faster, but hopefully you're able to scale your business. And the one thing I will tell you is that at Docker, this collection of concerns is where our thrust is going to be and where we think we can make a real difference. Now, I was saying that, I think we should be super clear when we wish to win your trust, we wish to win your partnership, and we hope to change the world with you. So we should be super clear about what it is that we're doing and why and how we're going to approach this, right? So I think you all know, those of you who have been our friends and fans for a while, you all know that our roots are in open source. And if you look at this timeline, you'll see that the arc of innovation is long. What these projects represent is a remarkable level of collaboration and working together. From our inception, our founding technologists, our engineers have come together with a group of remarkably talented people in the open source domain who've worked together, and we have this series of projects that have evolved over time. And some of the stuff is I don't really have words to describe it. It's magic, right? But here's the thing. Along the way, what we have also done is characterize some of this work that has evolved over time as a result of collaboration, as a result of experimentation, as a result of working with people who are beyond the walls of our company, into products that meet your needs, into a platform that is somewhat more on a set of guide rails, that solves a somewhat more well-defined set of use cases, that has certain enterprise-ready features that are specific and more applicable to those set of use cases. And that describes the arc of products that we have worked on and that we're beginning to put out there. And if you look at how that picture has evolved, looking at this picture, we have gone from having really interesting pieces like Hub and Enterprise and Desktop to things that are now coming together and converging into a platform that delivers a different kind of productive experience. So we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But I do want to say one thing. It is entirely apparent, not just to me, but to us in Docker as a company, that there are two things that are true. That one, we would not be where we are today without our engagement with the open community, and that remaining creative is existential for us, and that by doing so, we serve not only ours, but your interests the best. And so our engagement with the open community in a thoughtful, in a purposeful fashion will remain true, and we will stay true to our roots. The second thing I wanted to point out, and again, I hope my ask to you is, think about the things that I'm saying and ask yourself as you work, as you're here for the rest of DockerCon, and as you're listening to us talk and hearing about our products and so forth, does this relate, right? Because the three things from an engineering perspective that we're going to try and focus on are simplicity, scale, and trust, right? And this is, if you like, the implementation detail that will go into our design thinking, our product focus, and so forth, that comes from the tenets of choice, agility, and security, okay? I think the simplicity part of it is just core to our DNA, right? We would not be the container, would not be synonymous with Docker. Docker would not be a de facto standard. And I say this with no hubris, right? Without the notion of, because Docker didn't invent everything. We didn't invent everything, but we took certain concepts and over a period of time, again, working with minds as bright as ours outside the boundaries of our company, we were able to, and I think we will continue to be able to find ways to make the hard simpler and simpler still where possible. The scale aspect of it, aside from a platform and a technology perspective, is this, right? We would love to work with you for you to scale your efforts. In a world where all of you are, in some fashion, going to be in the business of building applications, writing software, we would like to help you in that journey to go and scale your efforts in your company. And trust is a very simple thing. We've been talking about, as a core tenet for our company, security by design, secure by design. The other element of trust is this, right? We would like to be the company. We would like to be the technical and engineering team that you would like to work with, you would like to partner with. And that is a way in which we view winning your trust. Now, in order to do all of that, in order for us to scale as a company, in order for us to help you scale your effort, we recognize that it is not just about us, right? That there is a larger ecosystem surrounding us that is comprised of the elements that you see here in this picture. We hugely appreciate the 600 plus, going on 700 customers who have made an investment of faith and trust in our products and our platform. We're enormously grateful to the user community, from those customers as well as in the open, who download, use our products, provide us with feedback, and basically make us smarter. So around this is, this whole ecosystem, and then there's this ecosystem of partners that we work with who round out, who complement some of Docker's products, platforms, tools, and technology. And here, this picture describes many of our partners whom we work with. And I'd like to say on behalf of Docker that we recognize this and we are enormously grateful for your partnership and that we will do everything in our power to ensure that that is a good, productive, meaningful, and mutually beneficial experience going forward. And a special shout out here to our friends at Tigera who have done some invaluable work with us on our platform. And of course, coming back again to how valuable the open source contributions have been, we wanted to acknowledge the work of Akihiro Suda, who's contributed the SSH connection feature recently, as an example of things that are not only contributed or ideated, but really invented outside the four walls of Docker, and become a core part of our ecosystem and our product offering. Let's try and spend just a little bit of time trying to think about what our role is in the developer community. So look, Docker basically has and will continue to serve the developer community and the operator community. One of the ways in which we feel we can add an enormous amount of value is to help bridge the collaboration and the conversation that occurs between the enterprise segment of the developer community and the open community, because we participate in both. So along those lines, I wanted to say a few things about, I was talking about our commitment to open source remains true. We will continue to engage effort, time in a meaningful, purposeful way. Let's talk a little bit about how we're going to do that, right? And how we do that today. So I should first say that when we consume technology from the open source set of projects that are out there, and of course we do that, our engineers try to give back on behalf of Docker. So if you consider projects like gRPC, Netlink, to name two, the Golang project, these are all technologies that our Docker enterprise, our Docker engineers continue to contribute back time to and work to, and they will continue to do so. Then there are a couple of additional ways in which we find engaging with the open community, working with the open community incredibly valuable. One of them is that there are certain foundational concepts, foundational projects that we find that when we collaborate with the open community, the ideation, the design, some of the feature work that happens is fundamentally more complete. It meets a broader need. It is more generic. generically applicable, and we will continue to do that. And I've got a couple of examples that we'll talk about real quick. These probably won't be new to you, but they're relevant to that particular way in which we engage. And the third is there are certain higher level ideas that are still evolving, that a lot of companies, people have opinions about, and we find that putting that in the open, having that discussion in the open, and doing some of the early work in the open tends to be very useful. And we'll talk, have a couple of examples to talk about that too. So let's talk a little bit about Containerd and BuildKit. So Containerd, a container runtime, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, has had an incredible level of contribution from the open community. A lot of engagement, a lot of discussion. It's made it better, and Containerd now has started to become a more pervasive container runtime. It's gone through multiple releases, multiple stable builds, and CRI Containerd has now become incorporated into Containerd overall, and Containerd itself is now powering the Docker platform. We take BuildKit as a second example of foundational work. Consider this, right? Most of you, at least those of you who are not new to Docker, are well aware of the Docker build feature. And the Docker build feature, again, something that was sort of collaborated with the open community for a long time. We were able to collaborate with a subset. Our engineers were able to collaborate with some of those folks and work on the next generation of build functionality. And that's basically what BuildKit is. And if you consider why this is so important, we were talking about speed and developer productivity. The way in which your builds are characterized, right? Those of you who have kind of mature thinking, tooling, and automation around your DevOps processes will appreciate that the whole complexity that is represented in your automated CI/CD pipeline around builds, and how the efficacy of your build definition and how effectively your builds work and how quickly they execute and how they perform is hugely influential to your developer productivity and the overall smoothness of your workflow. So BuildKit makes an enormous difference here. It's highly extensible, and it introduces about a 10x performance gain. We've got a couple of DockerCon talks on BuildKit. There's a best practices talk and one on supercharged Docker build that some of our engineers will be hosting, and I encourage you to go check those out and learn a little bit more about it. A little bit about some new updates, right? Again, continuing on that theme, Compose is sort of, without question, one of our most popular open source projects. I think these numbers kind of speak to themselves. About 1 million downloads a month, tens of thousands of files, Compose files being published on GitHub every month, and literally hundreds of contributors. So one of the things that, if you consider that you have a use case where you're characterizing a multi-service application described in Compose, and your objective is to deploy this on Kubernetes. The ability to do that basically gives you choice, right? And today, one of the things that I know, we'd like to basically, this has been available to some of our customers for a while, but today, the most important thing that we'd like to let you know is that as of today, we are open sourcing Compose on Kubernetes, and it'll be available for download at some point in time later today. Okay? So on that note, right, one more point. As I was saying, there are some high-level ideas that we like to collaborate with people in the open community, as well as with our partners. And so there's this notion that different companies, you guys, use different tools to characterize the definition of your application. And it often happens that you end up using more than one tool, right? You're using help charts, CloudFormation templates, and so on and so forth. And I think it would be useful, if you think about it, to have a format that allows you to describe and bundle all the things that comprise your application in a single bundle, right? So there's been some interesting work that we've been thinking about and partnering with. And to talk more about that, some of this very interesting work, I'd now like to invite Matt Butcher from Microsoft and Gareth Rushgrove from Docker onto the stage to talk about that.
Hey, Gareth, I brought you some gifts. First of all, a box of grapes.
More grapes.
You should start eating those now. Second, but it turns out they also have a grape-flavored drink here. So I thought you might like that, and don't start drinking that now. In fact, if my demo fails, I might need that back. I saw your Docker app demo yesterday, and I'm very excited for a couple of reasons. First, I've always been in awe of Docker's ability to deliver a superior developer experience, and I see Docker app as yet another example of that, and that to me is very exciting. Second, I'm excited because I know what you didn't say yesterday. Thanks for waiting until we could get together here on stage to talk about our news that our teams have been working together on.
So what we didn't say yesterday was that Docker app implements a new specification for packaging applications. We're happy today to open up the work we've been doing with Microsoft and other partners on cloud-native application bundles, or CNAB for short. So yesterday, we showed a demo of using a compose file to deploy our application using Docker app. Here's something different. So here, we have a bundle that uses a Helm chart instead. Let's install that with Docker app. Fingers crossed. So, Docker app install, exactly as we saw yesterday. This time we're providing a context, and we're specifying the local bundle file. And it's worked. Actually, what we've seen there is a Docker app simply install a Helm chart. Let's just double check that's running. There. Obviously, that's very simple. But in fact, we could have built a CNAB which used Terraform to stand up a database as a service, or an Azure resource template to provision some virtual machines, or even used several of these tools, or even all of those tools to packaging up a single bundle. Like, Matt, do you want to dive into the details behind how CNAB works?
Yeah. All right, let's start with a demo. I'm going to install a CNAB bundle. However, this CNAB bundle happens to have my presentation in it, so if it doesn't work, this is going to be the shortest keynote in DockerCon history. You should probably get going on those grapes. All right, here we go. All right, so I double-click on the icon, and here's my nice visual installer for my DockerCon presentation. So I'm going to click Install. Got a couple of fields that I can modify if I want. I'm just going to change the name. And then I'm going to click Install. Now, when I click Install, the CNAB bundle is going to discover what my local Docker environment is set up as. And it's going to use Docker Compose to set up an Nginx server that's running my reveal.js-based presentation. And this is all local, so it's going to go nice and fast. But I could just as easily have done something like this with Azure Resource Manager and ACI instances, or into Kubernetes, or use Ansible or something like that. All right, here we go, here we go. Looks like you get to keep the bottle of wine. All right. So I'm excited to get to talk about cloud-native application bundles. And where I wanted to start was to sort of explain why we decided to do this. Cloud native should not mean experts only. Take a look around at the other people here in the room with you. We together are leaders in this particular technology. But as we heard Scott say yesterday, there are 15 million developers who has not yet experienced cloud native development. So those of us together in this room here, we're in some ways responsible for making that transition easier for them. Now, we've gotten a long way toward this goal, right? We've built a rich ecosystem of tools. Cloud-native applications, we can build highly distributed, microservice-based applications that take advantage of a wealth of features from all these cloud services available to us. But I think that it is now too hard. With distributed applications, we've been very focused on solving some really impressively difficult problems. And we've come up with some beautiful solutions, right? But I feel like somewhere along the way, we kind of collectively lost that sense of the application part of distributed applications. What we want to do is figure out a way where we can take the distributed application, all these parts together, and once again talk about them as an application, right? A unified thing. Now, as we started talking about what kinds of problems we need to solve, we asked this question: what if we could make installing cloud-native applications as easy to install as a desktop app? So let's take a look at the kind of architecture that we're looking at, the kind of problem we have to solve in order to answer that question. So here's a little example WordPress app, kind of configured in a cloud-native way. My team kind of jokingly refers to WordPress as the hello world of cloud native. Because when you've got your hello world example, the whole idea is to show off just a specific way of doing things in code and cut out all the distracting details. And WordPress, given its architecture, lends really well toward showing how you could do something fairly straightforward. So here in this example, we want to be running our WordPress instance as inside of Kubernetes. Right? So we've got it running in Kubernetes as a deployment. We've got a service to route traffic into that deployment. And then we've got DNS hosted on Cloudflare. And then our database, where WordPress stores all its data, we're going to use an Azure-hosted MySQL. Now, how do we set all that stuff up? Well, when it comes to Cloudflare, we'll be using the JSON REST API. We'll use Helm, charts, Kubernetes manifests in order to get things into Kubernetes. And then we'll use Azure Resource Manager templates to set up the Azure-hosted MySQL instance. Something doesn't feel right about that, though. We just said WordPress is the hello world experience, and then we're going to require people to master at least 3 sets of tools in order to install it. This is the experience we're after, right? Like that example where I installed the presentation. That's the kind of thing that we really want to experience. A simple interface where someone can click a couple buttons and fill in a couple text fields, that's going to make it much easier for these 15 million developers to get started in cloud-native applications. And actually, to be totally honest, I would myself prefer to be able to go through an experience like this rather than set each of these components up individually. So let's talk for just a moment about what a CNAB contains. There are really 2 big pieces to a cloud-native application bundle. The first one is a signed JSON object that we call the bundle descriptor. So this exposes parameters, the credentials necessary for running these things, image references, basically all the configuration that would need to be injected into this runtime. The second piece is called the invocation image. This is a Docker container that performs the install, uninstall, and upgrade kind of logic for us. So I'm really excited because today we've got 3 announcements to make. The first one is that we are releasing the specification for cloud-native application bundles. Now, to me, it's really important that this is the first step. Because we've got good ideas about how to solve some of these problems, but we have a bigger vision that we think CNAB will solve a very broad array of problems that we probably haven't even thought of yet. But if we can provide something that the community can kind of gather around and discuss and refine and work on, we think that collectively we'll all be able to build the right set of tooling to make CNAB live up to its potential. So along with the specification, we've got some example bundles that show you how to use some of these different tools, whether it's Ansible or Terraform or Pulumi or Docker Compose or Helm. You can just take a look at those things and kind of see what we were thinking and what we've been experimenting with. The second thing I'd like to announce today is Duffel. Duffel is the reference implementation of a command line for CNAB. Now, we've already seen Docker app a couple of times now, and we talked about how it's really designed with the idea that we can provide an excellent developer experience for building applications. It just happens to use CNAB because CNAB is the right solution for that particular technology. The perspective with Duffel was a little different. We wanted to provide a tool that was really focused on implementing the spec so that people could look at this tool and look at the libraries that this tool uses and understand how it works. Along the way, we decided to follow the package manager kind of metaphor for this. So when you look at Duffel, Duffel operates like your typical NPM style, apt-get style, homebrew style package manager. It has verbs like Helm install, Duffel install, Duffel uninstall, and things like that. I love all my tools. The third thing we want to talk about is the Duffel VS Code extension. Now, we at Microsoft have a certain affinity for VS Code, you might have noticed. But when we thought about how are we going to help developers onboard into this environment, how are we going to help people quickly understand what we're talking about, it made sense to us that we could leverage our existing skill set with VS Code and build a Duffel VS Code extension. And this provides tools for doing things like inspecting existing bundles, creating your own bundles from scratch, and even running that install, upgrade, uninstall kind of workflow through the tool. So those are our 3 big announcements for today.
Yeah. So, with CNAB, we can standardize how you package up your entire cloud-native application. Like Docker, Kubernetes, Helm, like all the different cloud services on different cloud platforms, all of your infrastructure as code, all using a standard format. Like, in the future, you'll no longer need completely different tooling for every type of API-driven infrastructure. Like, Docker app implements the CNAB spec and automatically generates all of the required configuration for your Compose-based application under the hood. And it also integrates with other CNABs and is able to install other CNABs and integrates all of that with a Docker registry like Docker Hub.
So we're really excited to formally announce this stuff today. And thank you all for being here with us. This afternoon, you can sign up now for a hallway track this afternoon where we and the other developers behind CNAB will be around to answer your questions, get some feedback, show off some demos. If that's not your thing, go ahead and go straight to cnab.io and you can read the spec, get some tools, and get started. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should we grab that bottle of wine?
Thank you, Matt and Gareth. All right, how are we doing so far? Did it get cold in the room again when I left? All right. Should we try and warm up again for the tail end? Hola, Barcelona! Hola. All right. So the last few minutes. Look, not a whole lot more to add, actually. We're kind of at the tail end of this. I hope that what we have been talking to you guys about over yesterday and today is bringing this together as a picture in your head. The customers that we talk to, it's pretty apparent that nobody's making a case against, nobody really needs convincing anymore that there are benefits to a microservices architecture, that containers really enable that. I think if there was ever doubt about that, is the technology real? I think we've crossed that bridge. But it's not just us, we recognize, who are in this particular game. We believe that we have a significant role to play in delivering to you tools and a platform that enable the promise of what a microservices architecture and a containerized substrate can do for your apps, the apps that you're going to build, and for what that can do for your business. But what we've been talking about for the second half of this morning is, again, our approach to how we're thinking about that, how we engage with the open community, how we engage with our partner ecosystem, and some of the things that will inform our focus. And I think, I don't know of a good, convincing way to say this except to ask you this question, that if your tools and your platform just worked, right? Just think about that for a moment. If it just worked, it's something that was a given. How much faster could you go? How big a difference would that make to not just your developer productivity, but what your company could do? We want you to change the world. We want to help make that happen. And so at Docker, we are going to put an enormous amount of effort in our product design, in our engineering, in helping create the experience of flow. Are you guys familiar with the concept of flow? There's a psychologist, you should really go and Google, I'm sure some of you are, particularly those in product design, but there's a psychologist, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who has written a book and done some pretty world-famous work on the concept of flow, and it really basically says that when you are in a flow-like experience, you're so productive, you're so completely engaged with your tool set, whatever that might be, it's not just in software that this exists, that you lose track of time. And we are on a continuum to try and deliver that experience in our products through connecting the properties that you have become familiar with, so that when you go from desktop to a production environment, in your entire life cycle of applications development, when you are interacting with the Docker toolchain, your experiences will begin to feel more and more like you're in a state of flow. We recognize that we cannot do all of this on our own, and therefore we will continue to engineer extensibility into our platform through open programmable interfaces. And sometimes we will leverage open source, sometimes we will contribute to open source, but whether it's in the open or not, we will attempt to engineer our platform so that it's built and designed for pluggability, that make it beneficial and kind of a virtuous cycle for our partners to work with us, as well as for you to have choice and optionality in what tools and what services you choose to use with our platform. And finally, in the spirit of security, we will engineer a platform that is resilient and secure by design, because that's just the way it should work. You shouldn't have to worry about these things, and we are on a continuum to try and deliver that experience to you so that it is, in fact, a given. I can't say this enough. We are small, and we're telling you, we're trying to be agile and nimble. But in everything we do, in everything we aspire for, we view our success as yours. It should be that way. It must be that way. And it will be. You guys have been great. Enjoy the rest of DockerCon, and have a great afternoon.